We've got our Chelsea back. No, wait, hang on a minute. Let's not get carried away here. We've won 4-0 against Southampton. A good result for Chelsea at home. Well needed, clean sheet. You name it, you can find positives in that result. But what I will say is against this Southampton side, who are possibly maybe the worst team I've ever seen in the Prem. Statistically, they might even get to that level and fail to get the points tally that Derby did all those years ago. They make so many unforced errors. They're absolutely atrocious in a lot of different areas on that football pitch. I don't think it tells us enough, if anything, about Chelsea's hopes for top 4, Europe, and where this season can end up, and whether or not we're actually going to be out of this horrible patch of form we've been in against better sides. I think it's a fixture that came at the best possible time for Maresca, because the pressure could have seriously mounted up had that been against another opponent who are doing a little bit better than Southampton, because there are not that many teams in the Premier League that are as bad as them. They're woeful. The biggest positive for me on the night where Chelsea at home against Southampton, we've managed to keep a clean sheet. And I just think there's been so many occasions this season where we've not done that, mainly because of our own fault as well. If you actually look at the stats, Chelsea and Southampton are the two teams that have caused the most errors themselves leading to goals. Obviously 90% of that's probably been our goalkeepers, but there's been enough, and Southampton, you can see why. They handed us a couple of goals tonight as well, but Chelsea did things right after about 20 minutes. I would say the first 20 minutes had me concerned. I think with everything going on outside, with the protests, the noise before that game was all about that, the owners and where the fans stand with them. The players obviously are coming into that game off the back of some horrific results, some really bad performances. Top players are in poor run of form. They've got low confidence. It was just a nightmare fixture. You got Maresca before the game saying it could be a tricky fixture. Everything you need to not have going into a game against bottom of the league on a night when your fans are protesting against the club and the ownership. I think that's why the first 20 minutes were just how they were. The fact that the fan base was very tense. It was uneasy with us trying to play out of the press that Southampton, you know what, for the first 20 minutes did really well. They pressed us high, they slowed us right down, and we really sort of struggled to find any sort of way out of that on a consistent basis. However, they made mistakes. Chelsea pushed up higher up the pitch, put them under pressure. They inevitably kept giving the ball away, and we were out of that horrible sort of sticky 20 minutes. 24, 25 minutes on the clock, we win a corner, and lo and behold, I think it was Tosin who went up for it. Was it Tosin? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, it goes back post, and Nkunku, of all people, has thrown himself into the mix. Really brave, I have to say. When you're out of form and you need a goal and you're being doubted by the fans as to whether or not you work hard enough and care about a result, to throw your head into the mix like that to get a goal, that's exactly what we wanted to see. And he needs that. And look, that eased the pressure, didn't it? As soon as that goal went in, Southampton just absolutely capitulated. I'm not going to lie. They look like a team that don't even care about the results because they know they've already gone down. That's how I view that, to be completely honest with you. And that's what makes it so difficult to know where we stand off the back of it. We scored another few goals. I think that front line was really fluid. They gave the ball away, didn't they? And Nkunku picked it up on the half turn, played in a lovely little pass to Neto, who hits it first time on his left foot. Another great finish to make it 2-0. And then you've got Levi Colwill scoring a goal as well. You know what made me laugh about Levi Colwill and Neto, right? And we've got to address this, because this is a slight ego issue that I have with the current team and the current players. We've been woeful. We've dropped, I think, 13 points from winning positions this season since Boxing Day. That is an atrocious record. We're in horrific form. We failed to turn up against some really poor Premier League teams this season. And you know what Neto and Colwill did in their celebration? They went like that oh, ignore the noise, all the noise, it doesn't matter to me, shrugging it off. That noise is there for a reason. Levi, we don't expect you to score goals, so don't be doing this when you score. Do this when you're keeping clean sheets, which you inevitably did today, and I think you actually played well, but do that when you're winning games against not the worst Premier League team we've ever seen. The same with Neto. Neto, look, however you dress it up, I think he's actually a really exciting, good player, but his goal record is horrific for a player who's played in a front three for the majority of the time he's been in the Premier League. How many wingers now are relied upon to get goals? I think he still remains a 1 in 10 striker/winger. By the way, he definitely causes teams problems playing in this sort of hybrid false nine role and allowing the three of Nkunku, Palmer, even Sancho at times to just sort of interchange. It works really well. I say that, even Cucurella found himself really, really high up the pitch tonight and obviously got himself a goal later on in the second half. Going on to the second half, just quickly, bit disappointing, wasn't it? To go in 3-0 at half-time, I felt like this could be a rout and it would be the real type of scoreline that we need. The fact that another second-half performance under Maresca felt... It wasn't flat because Southampton was so bad and we did have chances, but I feel like we didn't get going for a bit in that second half. And eventually, obviously, Tyreek George cuts it back. And I felt like for the majority of that second half, we were trying to get Cole Palmer a goal. And it was just, it was just a bit of a nothing second half, to be honest. But I don't know what's going on at half time. But for some reason, this happened a little bit under Poch as well. I think it comes down to tactically the manager isn't prepared for what the other manager might do to sort of switch it up. Or the team talk just isn't lively enough to get the boys back up, or there's a fitness issue. It's something along those lines where second half, the performance dips a little bit, even though Maresca probably preferred, this bugs me, right? Maresca probably preferred the second half to the first half, even though we only got one goal, because we probably controlled the game more. I don't know the stats, but Chelsea probably had more possession in the second half than they did in the first. I can probably find it. I'm sure someone in the comments, let me know if you haven't already. But I'd rather see Chelsea go and get more goals and maybe be a little bit more risky and a little bit more open. In a game like that, when you know Southampton are never really going to score, just take it away from them. Get people's confidence really, really high going into that Leicester game that we've got coming up next as well. That's what I want to see, to be honest with you. But I know Maresca wants it slow and he wants it controlled. And I've said this so many times, right? Let me know if you agree. But this Chelsea team looks so much better when they're open, they're fluid, they're scarily quick on the counter-attack. In transition, we look absolutely unbelievable. Teams aren't able to handle what this team has in individual quality when it's running at pace, on the break, and there's like an overload, 3-4 against 2. We cause serious problems for teams in those situations. And I understand there has to be a balance, but I think Maresca brings it so far the other way that it removes that from the game, to be honest with you. I don't mind letting Southampton try to play out, which baffles me. There's so many teams that don't have the quality these days that attempt to play a style of football that requires you to have the level of players that Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City have, to be honest. I think even Maresca falls into that boat because I think he tries to play out from the back with players that aren't quite at a level to do so against the best sides in the Prem. Baffles me, but don't go so far the other way that it nullifies where your team looks strongest. I think that's why there's a thing about Cole Palmer this season, because I think last year we saw Cole Palmer on the break, on the counter-attack, in transition, look absolutely unbelievable because he's so intuitive, he's so instinctive that in that moment of panic for the opposition, he thrives. And I think Maresca's slowed that down and sort of removed the panic for the opposition a bit. And I think that's the key to getting more out of Cole Palmer. Defensively, I'll touch on it as well. I thought Cucurella was very, very good tonight. I mean, look, we're talking about playing against a championship level team here, but he seriously is probably right up there as one of the best left backs in the Prem and Europe right now. He is so good. The confidence he must have now off of the amount of time it's been since he had like a long run of bad performances at Chelsea is crazy. He's been so improved. I feel like I say it a lot, but I feel more and more trust and confidence in him every time I see him play pretty much. Yes, I know at times everyone's been a bit at fault, but he read the game incredibly well tonight when he's allowed the freedom that he was. When Cucurella inverts, I feel like it doesn't disrupt the team as much because I think he's really capable of doing it. And I think it suits the type of player that he is. I think he's very, very intelligent. I think he's got a great mind for reading the game on and off the ball. I think you see it where there was a moment where Southampton crossed the ball late in the game. Cucurella read it before anyone else. He's first out to the ball, wins it, gets us a goal kick. There was moments as well where he probably, first half, must have had the most interceptions on the pitch. If he didn't, he would have been right up there. He just reads it really, really well. And he obviously found himself in a fantastic position as well because he knew where that cutback was going to land. Scored a great goal. Another player who I was really impressed with tonight, and again, it was against a Southampton side that really don't offer too much. But they did, in very, very small glimpses, caused Chelsea a couple of little issues, and I think every time those issues sort of arose, Tosin was so calm. Even on the ball, I thought he was very good, but he just dealt with it. No nonsense, dealt with it. I think he calmed Levi down. Oh, you could hear him talking. That's the type of player that I think Chelsea need on the pitch at the moment. Just with the way everything's gone, I think that's a leader there, and I think he's a talker, and I know he didn't get the armband when Enzo went off, but it doesn't really matter. I think he talked that team through, especially with Jorgensen in goal. It's a shaky young defence in a couple of areas. I think Tosin talked that team through defensively about getting that clean sheet, made them fight for it, made them work. No sloppiness. And if there was, corrected it instantly. I think he won the battles that he had to. By the way, that they call him Tall Paul, that Anacho. He is a handful, and he can be difficult to play against. He's like 6'7", 6'8", and Tosin obviously is a similar height, but I think Tosin dealt with it. And yes, there'll be times when Tosin probably won't play him. Fofana, if he returns from injury, will. But you can put a lot of weight, and there's something about having a settled back line. No matter if you've got better players that are sat on the bench, if you can settle a back line, and they can start to trust each other and learn what each other are good at and what they aren't at. I felt like when Tosin went for the ball, Levi was there to clean up. Vice versa. I think it just kind of clicked. And if we went forwards with that defence, I feel like we might get somewhere. I feel like that till the end of the season could be pretty good. And I think at times, I've been critical of Tosin early on because I sort of felt like, what are we doing? That's not the Thiago Silva replacement we needed. But actually, as the season's gone on, when he's playing, I feel pretty okay with him there, as long as the balance is right around the rest of the team. But look, it's 3 points on the board. It takes us back into a better position for the race for top 4-5. Maresca needed that result. With everything going on outside, we had to make sure that we got the result on the pitch, because it would have been an absolute disaster had we not, against Southampton with the protests going on. Fair play to everyone involved getting it done. Just to touch on the protest, because there's been so much talk online. People are hating on it. People are loving it. What I'll say is, it did its job because it ended up being covered by the TV cameras. I think it was a better turnout than I thought was going to be there. And from what I've seen, that is, because I wasn't actually at the game myself. But what I will say is, I think going forwards, these guys are making the noise that needs to be made. But I just think there's too many different angles at the moment because there are that many issues at Chelsea. They need to sort of have a chat, solidify what they want to be vocal about. Because there was a guy that did an interview today who does the fanzine, chatting about how he feels like the owners are alienating the club in terms of ticket prices, removing the wage travel schemes, you know, that sort of thing. And then there's others that are there saying, win at all costs, win at Arsenal. There's people singing about Tottenham. And then there's people that are saying, look, the recruitment's not been good enough. I barely heard a mention about the sporting directors. There's people saying Maresca out. I know there's a lot of issues at Chelsea, but everyone sort of needs to bring that all together and get on the same page. And what I would say is, there's a lot of people saying Todd Boehly isn't to blame. Don't forget that Todd Boehly is business-minded. He owns Vivid, or has a huge stake in Vivid Seats. He's basically a tout. There's been issues with Todd Boehly. He's not guilt-free. The guy has made mistakes, huge mistakes at Chelsea. But Egbali, Feliciano, Wiss, Goldstein, what they've done in the press as well is equally as bad. And what they've done in terms of the structure of how they've been recruiting players is just as bad as well. We need to get everyone on the same page here and be very vocal that the real issue is probably the owners, and they need to change or leave. And I think that addresses a number of different issues. But because there's so many different issues, it affects so many different people, it just feels like it was a lot of mixed messages. And I think to make that even more powerful, we need to come up with one sort of message that conveys every issue and maybe release a detailed sort of list of all the issues that we feel have arose as a club. But you know what? Fair play to the people protesting. I thought they did a really good job. I think there's a really, really good turnout and enough that it got some traction, which is what you need. Fair play. I'll just add this in right at the end. Fair play to Manchester United, Tottenham and Chelsea for their protests in recent weeks, because these are the type of owners that we probably don't want in the Premier League, because I don't think it's for the good of the league, for the good of the game, and for the good of the English game, the beautiful game, right? But look, 3 points for Chelsea. We move on. I don't know what it tells us. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Can't not be happy with 3 points though. Look, I'll see you all in a bit. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 4K, and smash a like. See you in a bit, guys.